Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And today we are going to read a meditation. I thought it's the end of November, it's the last day of November, December starts tomorrow. So, and I'm gonna tell a lot of sobriety stories in December, and I'm gonna talk a lot about, the holidays and how to get through that, for things I've learned, and on and on and on. Appreciation for our family and our friends. So today I wanted to read a meditation, and I'm going to read, of course, from The Language of Letting Go, which when I started this video, I had it upside down. Have you ever, seen somebody in public reading upside down and you're like this? You are a fibber. You aren't really reading that book. So anyway, but you look cute anyway. So anyway, we're going to read the meditation from today, which is about detachment. And I read this morning, and I was like, this is so fantastic. This is a really, really good meditation for me, specifically. I hope somebody out there gets something out of it. But for me, specifically, it was such a powerful meditation. And let me tell you why. I think we talk a lot about having attachment issues. We say attachment issues. Or having emotional attachments to things in life, right? Or having a hard time, with attachments, physical or emotional and whatever. But one of the things that I don't talk about often here or just, in life is detachment, detaching with love. And it's interesting, and I'm going to talk about this with my friend Tanya in a second, because one of the things that my friend Tanya and I talk a lot about is not having an emotional investment in somebody or a situation, therefore not having any part in that game, if that makes sense. Which is hard, Often we want to be in it. But the one thing that this meditation talks about that I've never really addressed on this channel, because I just don't think this way, and I love that she uses these words, which are very, very simple, okay, is not reacting. And, I often think about that my two options when things happen in the world, in my, personal life, family members, whatever, is that I can either react, which to me means an immediate response. I can sit on it for a while and I can think about it, and that's a respond to it. That's a response, right? But I never really think about that I have the option of not reacting at all, not participating whatsoever in what is going on. And, my husband and my best friend are very good at this. They just kind of unless they're pushed up into a corner, they really kind of just stay out of stuff that's not their business. They really just don't care, and that's one of the things, I'll talk to Tanya about it, and I'll say, well, we'll be talking about somebody, and I'll say, well, what do you think about this or whatever? And she'll say, I don't. And I'll be like, what do you mean? And she'll say, I don't really care. I don't have the emotional investment in that person or that situation to enter into that, And one of the most important lessons that I have learned, we're going to talk about some of the important lessons I've learned this year and the next month, but one of the greatest lessons I've learned this year is the difference between reacting and responding. And now to also realize, I guess I always realize this, but it's when you're sitting, when you're sitting at a crossroads and there's left or right that you can turn, right? We always go, well, we have to go left or we can go right. No, you can go forward, okay? You can go through the sign, into the hillside. You can do all that. It might not be the best choice for you, but you have other options. You can turn around, go back the other way. There's always lots of options. And I guess for me, I just never think that not reacting is not an option. I always, will look at a situation and go, well, I have to do something with this. No, I really don't, And one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned is years ago, I've talked about this on here, when Maya Angelou and Oprah were talking, and they were talking about tabloids talking about Oprah and Stedman, her boyfriend, and she was saying, it's so hurtful, they're saying this about me and blah, 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 and it's not true, none of it's true. And Maya just looked at her and said, but see, you're not in that. And Oprah goes, what do you mean I'm not in that? They're lying about me, they're saying hurtful things that are untrue about me. And Maya said, but see, you're not in that. That has nothing to do with you. And, Oprah talked, this was one of her aha moments to realize that, when other things are going on, even if they have to do with you, doesn't mean that you're in that. It has nothing to do with you sometimes, And so often you don't have to respond. You don't have to react. You can just simply do nothing. And have you ever met somebody in life, I know a few people like this that are so peaceful and serene. They just have eternal grace. And they just, they literally don't engage in any of the buffoonery. They just don't. They're never in it. And they can literally have people running circles around them, and they're just kind of And you're like, how do you stay so calm? And they're like, what do you mean? It has nothing to do with, like, this has nothing to do with me, right? You know? And you're just like, God, how do you get there? You know, like, it's such a simple concept, but how do you get there? So, like, you know, I'm a work in progress, and I'm still working on that. But today's meditation is fantastic, and here, I'm going to read it for you. Detachment, November 30th. One day, my son brought a gerbil home to live with us. We put it in a cage. Sometime later, the gerbil escaped. For the next 6 months, the animal ran frightened and wild through the house. So did we, chasing it. There it is, get it, we'd scream each time someone spotted the gerbil. I or my son would throw down whatever we were working on, race across the house, and lunge at the animal, hoping to catch it. I worried about it even when we didn't see it. This isn't right, I'd think. I can't have a gerbil running loose in the house. We've got to catch it. We've got to do something. And I just want to pause for a second, okay? When we're going through situations in our lives, all right, I think that's our go-to thought in our head. I've got to do something. I've got to do something. I don't know what, but I've got to do something. When often, what she's going to talk about in here, one of your options is not doing anything. We've got to do something. A small animal the size of a mouse had the entire household in a tizzy. One day, while sitting in the living room, I watched the animal scurry across the hallway. In a frenzy, I started to lunge at it, as I usually did. Then I stopped myself. No, I said, I'm all done. If that animal wants to live in the nooks and crannies of this house, I'm going to let it. I am done worrying about it. I'm done chasing it. It's an irregular circumstance, but that's just the way it's going to have to be. I let the gerbil run past without reacting. I felt slightly uncomfortable with my new reaction. Not reacting, but I stuck to it anyway. I got more comfortable with my new reaction, not reacting. Before long, I became downright peaceful with the situation. I had stopped fighting the gerbil. One afternoon, only weeks after I started practicing my new attitude, the gerbil ran by me, as it had so many times, and I barely glanced at it. The animal stopped in its tracks, turned around, and looked at me. I started to lunge at it. It started to run away. I relaxed. Fine, I said, do what you want, and I meant it. 1 hour later, the gerbil came and stood by me and waited. I gently picked it up and placed it in its cage, where it has lived happily ever since. The moral of the story? Don't lunge at the gerbil. He's already frightened, and chasing him just scares him more and makes us crazy. Detachment works. Today, I will be comfortable with my new reaction, not reacting. I will feel at peace. I think that is such a phenomenal meditation, and maybe one of the best meditations I have ever read on this channel. You know, that we in life, whether it's a family situation, whether it's a relationship situation that we're going through, whether it's a work situation, whether it's road rage on the road driving, you know, whether it's, you know, being in a grocery line and 5 people being ahead of us, whatever the situation is, you know, whether it's trying to order something online and it's out, you know, of order, or, you know, like out of order, but like, you know, sold out or whatever, you know, how superficial the issue is or how huge the issue is. When we realize that we don't have to react to what is being put out there, there's a lot of peace and serenity that comes with that, you know, to some degree. And it's taken me a really long time to learn this, you know. What I thought was that it's probably not super healthy for me to react immediately to something. And I've talked on here before about how, like, when you react to something, it's like if somebody hits you, you hit them back, right? Like, that's your immediate reaction. But a response is where somebody hits you and then you go, okay, let me think about this for a second. You know, that wasn't really nice of you to hit me, right? But what took me a long time to realize was I don't have to have any investment in the game whatsoever. It really has very little to do with me. And that's what Oprah and Maya Angelou were talking about, you know? I'm not in that. And I don't have to be in that. And neither do you, okay? You know, even if it has everything to do with you on the outside looking in, it really has nothing to do with you until you put yourself in it, if that makes sense. And there's been so many situations in my life, you know, from family situations to relationship breakups to divorces to whatever, that I am in and I don't really know why I'm there sometimes. And literally when she, you know, talks about the gerbil chaser, I mean, that's how I feel. Have you ever lived in total chaos before where you're just like, what is going on? Like, I've got to do something. No, you don't. You don't have to do anything. You could just move on with your life. Take a deep breath, drink a cup of hot tea, drink a glass of water, go on with your life, you know? And things are going to get better over time. Like, that situation will eventually just resolve itself. It just will. But you don't have to put yourself into that. You don't have to think that you can solve the situation. And many times we can't anyway, right? You know, I mean, has there ever been a situation in your life? It's like, you know, to some degree, when my mom got sober, like the years previous that were hell. I've talked a lot about that on my vlog, you know, my mom's drinking and what that was like for me and all that kind of stuff, right? But it wasn't until I got sober, okay, that, and for me, it was a lot of chasing the gerbil. It was pouring alcohol down the drain. Even as an active alcoholic, I would do this, okay? As an active alcoholic, I was so angry at the alcohol that my mother was taking in that I would sit there drunk and pour down her liquor down the drain because I was so pissed, right? But, you know, what would happen over time is that, like, it just got worse and worse and worse. I became her caretaker, and I didn't want to be that, right? I was chasing the gerbil. I was making sure she was asleep in bed at night safely. I was making sure that the doors were locked. I was making sure that she got to doctor's appointments. I was making sure that she was healthy. I was making sure that she had food to eat. It was a lot. I was chasing the gerbil everywhere, right? So I go through treatment and I get sober. And one of the things that my counselor says is you have to, you know, change people, places, and things. You can't continue to be around people that drink and use around you. And I said, even my mother. And she said, even your mother. So I had the conversation with my mom and I said, you know, Mom, I'm told that I can't be around the same people that drink and drug. And she said, you know, really, surely you can't mean me. And I said, yeah, you're probably one of the people at the top of the list. And that's 6 months between when I got sober and when my sobriety birth date is December 17th. My mom's was June 2nd of the following year. I didn't see her a whole lot, you know. I was too busy taking care of myself. I was too busy focusing on myself to even really know what was going on in that. It didn't mean that I didn't love my mom. It didn't mean that if she called me for something I wasn't there and I would do it for her. But what it made me realize was it's not my responsibility to make sure that she's 100% okay. I have to take care of myself first before I can be there for somebody else. And I didn't have to react to every emotional outburst that she put out there, right? You know, I could sit on the phone and I could be like, well, what's going on? Okay, are you okay? Okay, thanks. Well, I'll see you, you know, in 2 days, Mom. And I didn't see her a whole lot that first 6 months, and I definitely never saw her if she was drinking, you know, and then she got sober. And I don't know how much of that has to do with the fact that I wasn't in it anymore, and she was basically having to take care of herself. But that's a huge part with addicts and alcoholics, but that's a huge part in life. Detaching with love, or just detaching, period, and saying, hey, I'm not in this. I'm not in it anymore. You gerbils, you team of gerbils, just run around the house, but I'm not in it anymore. And that's why I really love that, you know, that analogy, because it just makes so much sense. Have you ever been sitting in the middle of a situation and you're like, yeah, this is like gerbils everywhere. And now you'll think about it. See, like I will. I think it's a fantastic analogy, you know? And so whenever you're in a situation where you find yourself getting really heated, or you find your peace and your serenity evading your, you know, or leaving your mind and whatever, ask yourself, is this really worth it? Do I really need to be in it? Or should I just not react at all? I hope you guys got something out of that. I hope you guys got something out of that. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.